Not all visibility opportunities are created equal. If you're not being visible where your high value clients are looking for solutions, you're not going to be able to attract them. And that means you're still going to feel like the invisible expert who has so much value, but you don't have the right clients to give it to. You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 419. And today we're going to talk about a visibility plan that helps you attract and land high-value clients. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and ripple makers. It's your host, Melanie Benson, and today we're talking about visibility planning. And that is the practice of not just having random acts of visibility, not just having things in your head as an idea, but literally taking them out of your head and putting them into a roadmap of sorts that allows you to be consistently visible, and not just everywhere, but where your high value clients are looking for you. There's a saying that I kind of landed on a couple years ago, and that is, if they can't see you, they can't hire you. And right now, there are people out there who need what you do and are willing to pay you probably really well to get solutions that you're really brilliant at getting. But there's a couple of fundamental issues that are probably in the way if that's not happening as consistently as you would hope for. And one of those problems is that people aren't getting why you. They don't know what you do, what problem you solve, and they don't see you when they're going to solve the problem or they're wanting to accomplish the goal. And so both of these are fixable. Both of these situations are something that I specialize in helping people do. But the big piece is you've got to make sure that you're really intentional about how and where you're being visible. So the question I get asked a lot when I'm working with people in Authority Accelerator is, okay, Melanie, once I know what it is that I'm good at, once I know what it is that I want to be known for, and I'm creating this visibility strategy, where do I actually find high value clients? How do I attract them? And so I'm going to outline that for you today. And my hope is by the time we finish this episode, you've got some clarity about what to put into your visibility plan. Now, let me first talk a little bit about some common missteps that I see a lot of coaches and experts and thought leaders, ripple makers making. And I mentioned earlier this idea of random acts of visibility. What this looks like is I'm being visible everywhere. I'm saying yes to everything, and you're not really having a clear intentional strategy about what audiences you should be in front of. You don't have clarity about where you should be visible. The first thing that makes everything work is being crystal clear about who your ideal dream client is, this high value client for you, and getting clear about what audiences are full of those type of people. The second thing is you have to become aware when you're chasing a shiny object. So that might mean you're following the latest trend, you're being really involved in a social media platform that's not producing any kind of result for you. It might mean that you're active in some cross-marketing, strategic marketing that's not really paying off. I found myself in one of those earlier this year where, again, I'm always willing to test things, but I was investing a couple $100s a month in something that I was like, this is not my people. This is not where I want to be. And so we just cut it, right? It was a low ROI for the investment and the effort. And so you need to know when it's time to cut it. Third, a lot of people love getting referrals and that word of mouth energy of bringing clients. And yes, that is ideal, but If you're over relying on that and you're waiting for stuff to come to you and you're not producing your visibility consistently, you're probably not getting the level of clients in the door that you want. I don't really believe you should rely on referrals and word of mouth, but rather make that the icing on the top of your cake. And last, along these lines of waiting, and I see this happening a lot, is you are waiting for other people to invite you to the table instead of creating your own table or creating your own momentum. And that might be because you don't know how, or maybe this is uncomfortable for you to ask. When you have the right strategy in place and your visibility plan is totally dialed in, this should be easy for you. It should just become a second nature, habitual, all the time thing you're doing. So ultimately, it's important to recognize that visibility isn't about being everywhere and doing everything, but it's about being in the right places where high value clients are already established, where they're already in community, where they're already looking for solutions. Okay, this is my belief that it's better to be known by 50 to 100 of your ideal potential clients than to be seen in thousands or hundreds of thousands of the wrong ones or uninterested ones. Now, before I get into my framework for a profitable visibility plan, I want to establish there's 3 key foundations you've got to have for this to work. And if you do not have these in place, just know you would be in good company. There are so many experts who've either pivoted or they maybe kind of skipped this step and they jumped into delivering a solution because they had a mechanism that made that work. But in today's climate, it's pretty tricky to bypass these 3 foundations if you don't have them. But as a matter of fact, most of the people that come into Authority Accelerator have to dial these in again. The first one is you really need to know who your high value client is and who they are not. If you don't know this, you're going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall and your visibility plan's not going to work. Secondly, you need to have absolute clarity on what your value proposition is. When you are selling your offer, when you are inviting people to take an action on something, what is the value for them in doing so? If you do not understand that, or it's out of whack with your price point, it doesn't work. Okay, so that's when you get a lot of lead leak. And then third, you need to have a way to nurture and build rapport with leads because not all leads are going to jump right away into a decision. You have to have a way to continue to build momentum with them, to continue to build up desire and need when they're interested in you and they like you, but they're not ready to hire you or buy from you. So assuming you have those 3 pieces in place, this is how your profitable visibility plan needs to come together. All visibility plans start with your Lighthouse Message. Your Lighthouse Message is the anchor for all of the visibility that you create, whether you're visible from your podcast, you're visible from as a guest, you're doing video, social media, whatever you're doing. Your Lighthouse Message needs to be totally honed in, unique, relevant, and it has to, in some way, shape, or form, stand out, whether you're doing disruption or you're using a compelling energy, a magnetic energy. Your Lighthouse Message has to stand out. Here's why this is so critical. Let's say that the key part of your visibility plan is to be a guest expert. If you are approaching people to be a guest on their show and your message is too generic, it's so easy for them to ignore you. So it's important to dial that in first. And here's a question that I think is a good place to start when I'm coaching people on their Lighthouse Message development. I always ask them, what do you want to be known for? As a matter of fact, this is the very first thing I do in Authority Accelerator. What do you want to be known for? And then we can start to use that as the foundation for the messaging. So your message isn't confusing. It's clarifying, it's compelling, and it pulls your ideal clients towards you. Okay, so your lighthouse message should really be a standout. Like think of it like a beam of light in a dark space. It's like that should be a tractor beam that pulls people towards you. Now, step 2, once you're really clear what your lighthouse message is identifying what I call those $1 million visibility streams. Where are you going to be visible? Now, there's 3 key places where your audiences can be already built, which is going to save you time and energy, and you can speed up results. One of the things that I discovered in my first 3 years of business was the value of borrowing other people's $1 million visibility streams. Now, of course, I went on to build my own, but in the beginning, or if you're trying to reboot or you want to get some traction, or as a complement to what you're doing all the time, always be borrowing other people's visibility streams. So that means you got to know where they are. So there's 3 key places that you can do that. Podcasts, and we could lump in virtual shows with that. So podcasts, online stages, and in-person stages. And those 3 platforms, if you will, are very valuable to get started with this practice of regular visibility in front of high-value clients. Now, remember, I keep bringing in high-value clients. That means you need to know which audiences are most aligned. Not all visibility opportunities, not all podcasts, not all stages are right for you to be on, especially if you are paying for the privilege of speaking on that stage, which has become very popular, especially in the entrepreneurial spaces. You need to make sure it's aligned. It needs to make sure that that audience is relevant and ready to hear about your message. Okay, and there's a lot of ways to vet that out. Here's my question for you to ask yourself. Where are my competitors already being visible? That can be an easy place to start to look for places that they've been visible, they've been showcased, they've been invited to stages. Okay, so identify where your $1 million visibility streams are that you can borrow. Now, there's a deeper layer to borrowing visibility streams. We're not going to get into it here, but you need to make sure as we get into step 3 that you can position your value. Okay, what is your value? Value to the audience, value to the host, value that you can bring into the conversation, that you can bring into this platform that makes it an easy yes. So there's several layers of how you can position that value. One is make sure that you're doing the work to build your own reach. So again, think of it like every podcast, every show, every stage, there's a lot of people vying for that visibility. Now, part of your plan should be, yes, I'm going to borrow other people's stages, but I also need to make sure that I'm bringing value, that I'm the one they want to bring to that conversation or to that stage, to that event. Why? Because what you're going to deliver makes the host look good. What you're going to bring into that value exchange is something they're not going to get from your competitor. That you can focus on your value, you can focus on the value of your own reach. Let's face it, like most of these are collaborative opportunities. So what are you going to do that's going to bring listeners, bring an audience, bring potential buyers to that conversation or to that interaction, that opportunity? We have to start thinking beyond just I'm getting visibility and into this is a value exchange. Now, why is this important when we're wanting to attract high value clients? You may think to yourself, well, I'm looking for places where my high value clients already exist and they've already done the work to build the audience. Yes, things have gone to the next level. It's not enough just to bring a valuable piece of content. You need to be thinking collaboratively. You need to be thinking win-win-win. You need to be thinking, how do I establish my trust and my authority beyond the 20 to 30 minutes I'm being spotlighted, or the hour if you're on a stage, And how can I bring next level value? Okay, this is where your visibility strategy meets your authority positioning strategy. A really simple thing, again, I'm going to give you a question to explore with yourself. If somebody sees I'm speaking or I've been interviewed on that hot platform and they go to my social media, what experience do they have of me? Does your social media continue to sell your value, or does it confuse them? That's a big one that I believe that when you can solve that and you can get everything in sync, your value proposition goes up tremendously. Ultimately, you want that consistency, you want that authority, you want that credibility and trust building aspect of your social media, of your website, of anywhere somebody can go to research you to be an extension of what they experience in the showcase. And when you do that, high value clients are going to be accelerated through the buying process, through the vetting process, and it's easier for them to get to yes. You want everything that you have to scream, I am the most logical choice for you. And it's not just about hyping or having like case study after case study. It's also about your energy. It's about your brand alignment. It's about the little things, the emotional connection, the trust proposition that they're experiencing when they're checking out your stuff. Now, one more thing on this, when you're thinking about your positioning your value, sometimes this starts the minute you're being considered. It's like, what kind of value does the host have from bringing you on? Have you done a good job of growing your reach on your socials, of cultivating an email list? Like there's a lot of measures that hosts look for these days in, if I bring this person on, how are they going to contribute to the creating greater reach with this opportunity? Okay. And sometimes your opportunity to get on that stage or on that podcast is made or broken through the reach that you can bring to the table. So something to think about there. Now let's talk about step number 4. Once you've got the other pieces down in your visibility plan, now it's about activating this compounding effect. And this to me is where your visibility starts exponentially growing on top of itself. $1 million visibility streams start with the opportunity, but it is multiplied when you know how to leverage the opportunity. This is a often untapped opportunity amongst experts, and that is, how do you transform that first visibility opportunity into profits, not just in that moment, but for years to come? Often overlooked is the conversation you have with the host. It's the relationship you build by being indispensable and valuable to the host. So here's my question for you. How can you transform that first visibility opportunity into something more strategic and ongoing, given that there's resonance and some opportunity between you and the person who's invited you into this visibility opportunity? So don't just do transactional thinking. Okay, we've done the one conversation. No, dig deeper. What else can occur? What are you willing to do to nurture that relationship? Now, step number 5 is test, track, tweak, rinse, and repeat. This is where people drop the ball. They do something a few times, they don't see the results, and then they're like, I'm out. I worked with a woman in Authority Accelerated a few years ago, and she came in because she's like, yeah, I'm not monetizing my visibility. I heard all about getting on podcasts. I did it. Nothing happened. She's like, so now I'm just back to old school marketing. And I'm like, great, but how do people know you? Like, how are you positioning your authority? And she's like, well, I feel like I'm a best kept secret. Boom, right? That's the opportunity. And so when we worked on it, what I realized was she had started it, but she'd never taken what she learned, tweaked her topic and her delivery of her presentation, the talking points of her conversation and her call to action so that it would perform better. She got the feedback and then gave up. So my belief is this visibility works because I've personally experienced great results. I've attracted over $100,000 a year in new opportunities by using this strategy. Partly from what happens in the conversation and the clients it attracts, and partly from what happens by doing this compounding effect. But it doesn't go anywhere if you don't test it, track results, tweak what's not working, or optimize it to make it better, and then repeat the process. So you have to know that it's not even just about, is it working now? It's like sometimes things stop working in the future that we're working in, today. And I think we're all seeing that right now. We're seeing that there's a huge market correction in how people consume content and how they make buying decisions. So a lot of stuff that worked, a year ago, 6 months ago, isn't really working in the moment. So you need to stay fresh. You need to stay connected to what's working, what's getting the return on investment we want. And if it's not getting the investment return we want, what are we willing to do differently to make it better? Do you need to test a new call to action, like a new lead magnet? Or do you need to up-level your topic because the one that you've been doing isn't fresh anymore? Or your energy's not in it anymore? Or like 70 other people started talking about it because they heard how hot it was when you put it out there. That happened to me with my initial foray into talking about how to borrow other people's podcasts. And everybody else jumped on it. So can you keep it fresh? Can you continue to bring your own edge to the topics? Can you say, okay, that was working, and I'm going to up the ante a little bit and bring a even edgier or more disruptive or more compelling topic into this process? So here's some things to look at. When you're on these platforms, how many of them are bringing in clients? How many of them are bringing in leads? If you don't have a way to track that, you need to figure that out. It could be that you have some unique tracking links, or you try different lead magnets for different shows or different stages. It's really easy to do when it's in person. Then track where is your best performing visibility. I know without a shadow of doubt, my best performing is the live event. Second is the virtual event with aligned audiences. And third is the podcast. But I do all three of them because the podcast interview almost always leads to one of the other two opportunities for several reasons. Okay, so you want to make sure you're tracking what's performing well and do more of that. And the things that aren't working that should be working, test, track, tweak, throw it back out there. Now, this is what you want in your visibility strategy, and this is how you make it work. And the bottom line on a visibility strategy is you want to have a very simple, here's what we do every quarter, every month, every week, and every day to make sure that I am visible where my high-value clients are making decisions. Am I in the right audience? Do I have the right topic? And is it the right platform for me to reach them and build that rapport and trust? And it's always about going back and testing, tracking, keep continuing that process over and over and over again. That's what marketing is for those of us that have stayed in business for a long time. We're always doing that process. So have a strategy, have clarity about what you're going to do every month, every week, every day, and track results. Okay, the results have to be tracked. Don't just say yes because it's a flattering opportunity. Say yes to the opportunities that have the greatest potential of reaching where you want to be. You don't need to do all the things. You need to do the things that move the needle. Now, if this is resonating for you and you're like, yes, I am a ripple maker. I really am an expert who feels like too much like a best kept secret. And you know that this is the time that you need to dial this whole system in. My Authority Accelerator is open and taking applications. Even if you're like, I don't know if that's what I need, and you want to check out the work, I will link it up in the show notes. I highly recommend, if your message is not getting you booked and getting you clients, that is the most important thing that you solve first, because it acts like a catalyst for everything else. That clarity and that confidence and that energy bump that you get, that makes everything so much more compelling. That's how we become lighthouses, is we drop into that convincing energy because we're so fired up about what we do. And Authority Accelerator is a 6-month program, and it's all about getting that profitable visibility plan and that massively clear offer that is so compelling that will get your ideal clients to yes before they even get into your sales process. So link that up in the show notes for you, or you can head to melaniebenson.com/coaching, and you can see the different ways that my coaching programs work for experts and thought leaders. Now, if we're new friends and you're just getting familiar with my work, here's my invitation. I want you to go to melaniebenson.com/quiz and discover if you are ripple ready. Are you ready to make bigger ripples with your work in the world? Is your foundations in place? If they're not, you're going to be like a flat tire limping along, trying to make things happen, but you're going to be missing some key ingredients to go from best kept secret to a sought after profitable ripple maker. And we don't want you to be limping along, right? So let's figure out what needs to get resolved and what needs to get optimized so you are firing and supercharged on all cylinders. So again, go to melaniebenson.com/quiz and you can get my free quiz. All right, I would love to hear, how are you going to up-level your visibility plan for the next 12 months so that your visibility is transforming into a steady stream of high-value clients ready to say yes? Wherever you're listening to this, give me a little shout out, or you can always drop onto the show page and let us know what you are going to do differently. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.